So as some of you may know, in 2017, I set out a challenge for myself, and that was to go see a different movie at the cinema every week for the entire year. And now it is the end of the year, and I'm so happy to say that I've completed that goal, and I wanted to bring to you my top 10 favorite movies of 2017, and the movies that made this goal worthwhile, so that I might actually have something to show for it. So as is the case with 2017, as it is for a lot of years, I have seen a lot of movies, but I didn't see everything that came out this year. And there's still so much that I have to see. I hear The Shape of Water is really good. I, Tonya, Call Me By Your Name. These are all movies that I haven't seen because they haven't come out yet, but I just can't put them on this list, so they won't be on here because I haven't seen them. But of the movies that I did go see, these ones are the best, according to me. Before we get into that, there are 4 movies that came out this year that I think deserve an honorable mention. Now, these 4 movies are movies that I really loved, but just couldn't make the list because there are only 10 slots. At that point, I guess, why don't you just make a top 14 list, because 10 sounds better. And those movies are American Made, the Lego Batman movie, John Wick Chapter 2, and The Hitman's Bodyguard. All of these movies, I went to see them, I really enjoyed them, and I reckon you should go see them if you haven't yet, because I had a great time watching all 4 of those movies. So, politics aside, gifts have been opened and honorable mentions have been mentioned. Let's talk about the top 10 best movies that came out in 2017. This is my very biased, very subjective top 10 list. Bradley absolutely enjoyed the crap out of these movies. So starting off at number 10 is a movie that made me think of why I go see movies in the first place. And that is to enjoy myself and because I want to feel something. And no other movie came out in 2017 that had me clenching the sides of my seat more so than Life Was Great. I had an absolute blast watching this movie. I think it is one of the most underrated movies of the year. My experience watching Life was a really interesting one because on one hand, I was really enjoying it. I was like, wow, this is super riveting. And on the other hand, I could not wait for the movie to end because it was making me so nervous for these people. Calvin was a really scary creature. Everyone that I've spoken to that saw Life has either liked it or loved it. No one that I've heard of go into Life and thought, eh. Which is ludicrous because it only has like a 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb. If you don't remember, when Life came out, people thought that it was going to be some sort of secret hidden prequel to the Venom movie that's coming out later on in 2018. And it's not that. I just think what's really funny is that when you have a movie that's just its own movie, its own original movie, we still have to kind of project some sort of superhero pop culture thing onto it. We can't just let the movie be its own thing. If you like thriller movies or space adventure movies, even if you like the movie Alien, which this movie admittedly does borrow a lot of concepts from, you should enjoy Life. It is a great movie. Get a life. Coming in at number 9 is a movie that audiences and critics unanimously loved. And I can tell you right now, I really liked it. And that movie is...
Would find a way.
Logan, you still have time.
Charles. The world is not the same as what it once was. Logan was one of those movies that kind of came out of nowhere. Like, it didn't ever need to be made, but we were so happy that it was being made. I do have a few flaws with the movie, and that sometimes it does get a little bit slow. I don't really blame that, considering that when I wanted a really deep personal movie about Wolverine, I didn't really want action the whole time. It's actually the action parts of the movie that bog this movie down a little bit. It would have been maybe a bit higher if the story was a little bit more personal than what I got. Still, this movie is a great movie. If you haven't seen it by now, then really? But go check out Logan. Definitely worth your time. Hugh Jackman, in my opinion, gives the best performance of his career. I don't want to sound too silly, but I feel like the 2 things that are preventing him from becoming Oscar nominated is the fact that Logan is still a superhero movie And the fact that it came out in March instead of award season where all the big awards movies come out, I almost feel bad for him for potentially not getting nominated. But if he doesn't get nominated, I would like to present him with the Bradley James McDowell Best Actor of the Year award. So, Hugh Jackman, here you go. It is great. So number 8 is a movie that I can't believe ever really got made, considering that it is a movie that appeals to a very niche market, but I'm so happy it did, because what we got was fantastic. It was funny. It was everything that I could have ever wanted from.
Action!
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa! Yeah, The Disaster Artist. It was pretty cool. Adam Scott said if he had a time machine, he would go back to just be on the set of The Room just to watch it unfold, because you don't really watch The Room, you witness The Room. And The Disaster Artist was such a perfect companion piece to The Room. And it wasn't like, oh yeah, have a look at this weirdo, let's all make fun of this guy. It was actually this really inspirational movie that kind of inspired me to go out and, I don't know, I just want to like achieve my dreams. It was like a Hannah Montana episode. I was so deeply moved by this movie. I think this is Dave Franco's best performance by a long shot. Keep an eye out for The Disaster Artist at the Oscars as well. I so want to see Tommy Wiseau up on stage at the Academy Awards. Please let that happen. I'm so lucky I have you as my best friend, and I love Lisa so much. So coming in at number 7 was, we saw the trailers, we thought that it was going to be good. I didn't realize it was going to be this good. I had an absolute blast with I challenge anyone to find a single review that doesn't say Thor Ragnarok is a fun movie. I went back and watched this one a second time just so I could really gauge where it sits on my top 10 list. But man, is this movie fun, especially the character of Valkyrie. She was my favorite part. What I really liked about this movie is they kind of take a new direction with the character of Thor, considering that historically his movies in the MCU as a whole haven't really been the best, but when you see him as a character in the Avengers and even in his own movies, he is actually quite unintentionally funny. And I believe that Taika Waititi was the best person they could have gotten to helm this. I think it's the 17th movie in the MCU franchise. There are a few moments where the humor is a little bit forced, but for like 80-90% of the jokes, they work really, really well, and it did so much for the character of Thor that I really, really was so happy to finally see in a movie. Thor was great. You've seen it by now. You know that it's one of the better superhero movies that came out in 2017, because there were a lot of them. So coming in at number 6 is one of those movies that just reminded me why I chose to go see a movie every week. Otherwise, I would have totally missed out on... Get Out was so good. I can't think of a single issue I have with this movie other than there were some bits that kind of dragged. But for those bits, I was still just sitting in my seat like, I need to know what happens. What's so great about this movie is that it tricks you into thinking that it's about one thing, and then it completely flips on its head and you think, shit, this is not about that thing at all. I was completely wrong the whole time. And that's something that I really love, is when I'm in a movie and I think I know what's going to happen, and then the movie just slaps me in the face and says, you are an idiot. Now, social commentary, if a movie says something, take a movie like Moonlight, for example, where that movie just kind of said something about society, but I kind of need more than just saying something to enjoy a movie. Get Out was making that sort of social commentary, but it remembered to just be a good movie, and that was my favorite thing about Get Out. I thought it was so great, and looking back on it now, definitely earned a place in my top 10 movies of 2017. And I know that's what Jordan Peele really cared about. So coming in at number 5 is a movie that it just gets better the more you think about it. I had such a great time in the cinemas watching this movie. It's the funniest movie of the year, but it's by no means a comedy. But I can guarantee you, when this movie comes out in wide release, do yourself a big favor and go see
3 billboards outside.
Then put an end to shit, you fucking retard. This is just a fucking start. Why don't you put that on your Good Morning Missouri fucking wake up broadcast, bitch?
3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. I really hope they change that name to just 3 billboards. Terrible title aside, this is one of the best movies of the year. It is about a mother who has something tragic happen to her, and she wants to communicate this message to the people of this town, but these people don't really want that message to be told to them. And some of the things they say just floored me, not because they said it, but because I found myself laughing at these events that happen. And I'm trying to keep my summary of the movie kind of vague, because I believe this is one of those movies that you should go into as blind as you can to get the maximum amount of enjoyment from. Frances McDormand, I think that's how you pronounce her names, gives a stunning performance, as does Sam Rockwell and Woody Harrelson. They are all terrific in this movie. Keep an eye out for this one at the Oscars. I think this one's a pretty heavy contender for a couple of awards. The only reason that I can think of that it won't win is because I feel like its appeal might be a bit too broad and not as niche as some other movies that might be going for the Oscar. Maybe at this point I should just turn this video into top 10 favorite films and Oscar predictions. This movie also kind of feels like it was made by the Coen brothers. That being said, if it was made by the Coen brothers, it would be their best film. The point is, go see it. So movie number 4 on this list is a movie that I kind of surprised myself on how much I like it. Again, it's a movie that I went back to see a second time in the cinema, and it's definitely going to split people on whether you think, yeah, Bradley, your opinion is worthwhile, or Bradley, your opinion sucks. Either way, I loved Yeah, like I said, this is my list. I loved Justice League. I thought it was such a monumental achievement as to the politics and all the stuff that went on behind the scenes. This movie was plagued with disaster after disaster. Zack Snyder's daughter tragically died during post-production of this film, and Joss Whedon had to take over, and that's where a lot of people's criticisms regarding Justice League come from, is the fact that it's too tonally different. You can tell when Snyder's directing it versus when Joss Whedon's directing it. I didn't get that at all. Really hoping that Ben Affleck stays on as Batman. I think he is perfect for the role and he fits into this universe so seamlessly. All these characters, Wonder Woman, Batfleck, Aquaman, The Flash, man, they were all so great in their roles. When I went to this movie, I just wanted to see these heroes that I love and that I grew up with on the big screen, and I got that. That's why Justice League is this far up on my list. For this movie to go through all those problems and turn out the way it did is definitely worth celebrating. There's not a whole lot that I can pinpoint and say, no, I didn't like that, I didn't like that, because it's just great. Like, again, it's so much fun. I will say this though, it is a little bit short, and that's because Warner Brothers brought out this mandate that said your DC movies cannot exceed more than 2 hours long, which I think is ridiculous. If they said 2 hours 20, I'd be like, you know, I understand that. Anything above 2:20 is a long, long movie, but 2 hours, anything south of that is what I would consider to be really short. Anyway, I'm really, really hoping that similar to BVS and Suicide Squad, that they release an extended version on the Blu-rays when it comes out, because I could have watched these characters for 3 hours, not gonna lie, which I think the original runtime was about 2:45, and I would love to see that cut of the film. I really liked it. Number 3 is probably the biggest surprise of the year. I hate horror movies. I was not going to go see this movie, but when it came out and I heard that it was really good, I thought, man, I've really got to go see that. But I really didn't want to see it alone. So I got some friends to come with me, and I'm so glad I did, because number 3 of my favorite movies of 2017 is... It's this little guy right here. I loved it. Everyone that I've spoken to who saw this movie said that it was great. After seeing this movie, I went back and read the novel for it. And then after reading the novel and seeing the movie again, the movie just got better. This is a fantastic novel to movie adaptation. I don't really get upset that they left out certain aspects of the book. It is huge. It's like 1,100 pages. It's ridiculous. Otherwise, this was just a really great movie. Again, it had me on the edge of my seat. I was like, what's going to happen? How are they going to deal with this thing that's plaguing their town? It was lit. This movie is getting a sequel. I am so there. I'm so on board and I'm so ready, because this was a really great movie, obviously. And that ain't nothing. So I won't lie to you. Number 2 and number 1, I had to flip-flop all the time. I was really torn between these movies. I had an absolute blast watching both of these movies in the cinema. I think they are both commendable movies. And there was really not much discerning between these two. It came down to the movie that I will remember 2017 for. Either way, my number 2 pick is a fantastic movie. And if you haven't by now, please go watch. Wonder Woman, another great movie that you should all go see. Seriously, Wonder Woman is without a doubt the best of the DCEU movies, and there will be very few people who will dispute that. We have seen so many MCU movies, so many DCEU movies, all these superhero movies, and this is the first female-led movie in like 15 years. The fact that they got a female director on board to helm this movie just made it feel different. It might not seem to some people that this is significant, but it does actually show. This movie feels quite different to a lot of other action movies. If you remember Mad Max in 2015, George Miller said that he got his wife to edit that movie, and she asked him why. And he said, because if I got a man to edit this movie, it would look like every other action movie ever made. This is the case with Wonder Woman. It was directed by a woman, and it shows. This has a really different flavor than other 21st century action movies. And me, being the absolute raging feminist that I am, adores this movie. And yes, there was a lot of pressure on this movie to be good, and if you ask me, Wonder Woman really delivered. And I'm so looking forward to watching this movie many times in the coming year. So here we are at my number 1 movie for the year. This is a movie that I saw the most in cinemas, had an absolute blast watching, and for me it's a bit of a controversial decision, because when I first saw this movie, I didn't think it would be in my top 10 movies for the year anywhere. But upon second and third viewing, it has shot up to number 1. I can't deny that I'm a fan of this franchise. You haven't seen it on this list so far, so you either think either he hates the movie or it's just naturally going to be number 1. And I think you know that my number 1 pick for 2017 has got to be...
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
I'm Bradley, and I like Star Wars. There are some things that I really hate about this movie, but at the same time, it has so many of the best moments of cinema in 2017. Poe Dameron's story arc is fantastic in this movie. Again, with Rey, Kylo Ren is becoming one of the best villains that I've seen on screen this decade. I'm trying to be as objective as I can when saying that, because this guy, you really understand where he's coming from and what he has to do and his place in this whole Star Wars galaxy. I did not love this movie at all when I first saw it. On my first watching of this, there were some times where I put my head in my hands and was like, where's my Star Wars movie? But upon second viewing, I realized that Star Wars doesn't belong to me. So they can do things, they can change things. I'm going to be completely fine with that, because if we learn something from The Force Awakens is that people hate when you just rehash the same things over and over. But The Last Jedi, it seems that people hate when you do things differently. Disney needs to find this middle ground with Episode 9 if they're going to have like a really successful, unanimously loved movie. And whilst I think this movie isn't quite as good as The Force Awakens, it's still such a good time at the cinema. I've got some problems with it. I have a lot of problems, actually. In fact, I could make a whole other video about my problems and the things that I like about The Last Jedi. Spoilers and all, I could talk for a long time about this movie. But just for now, know that The Last Jedi is my favourite movie of 2017. So yeah, that just about does it for my favourite movies of the year. Let me know if you enjoyed this list. I actually had a lot of fun making it. Did you agree with my list? Did you hate it? I guarantee you there's not a single person who's going to watch this video, look at this list and go, I totally agree with absolutely everything that he said. Because if we all liked the same stuff, everyone's top 10 lists would be identical. So please tell me what you reckon. Strike up a conversation. What are your favourite movies of the year? Give me a top 3, 5, 10, 20, anything you've got. I want to talk about it. Bearing in mind, this is the only time all year that I will ask you for your opinion. So please comment on this video. Thanks so much for making it to the end of this video, and I really look forward to making more videos like this because I had a lot of fun and I hope you enjoy watching them. I'm really bad at outros.